Did you notice how everything suddenly went quiet right when answers were expected? No signs, no noise, just stillness. This video reached you because that silence isn't random, it's a signal. What paused is settling. What stopped is holding. Stay with me, and you'll see why quiet appears only when a cycle has finished and certainty has taken over. When everything goes quiet, the first instinct is to assume something is wrong. We're used to noise being a sign of progress, messages, reactions, movement, feedback. So when that disappears, the mind fills the gap with doubt. But silence is not absence. Silence is containment. It's what happens when energy is no longer leaking outward and no longer needs correction. Think about moments in life when things were chaotic. There were signs everywhere, emotions running high, constant thinking, constant checking. Noise appears when something is still unstable. Quiet only comes after things have been gathered, organized, and placed where they belong. Just like a room goes silent after it's been cleaned, not before. The work finishes first. The stillness follows. This phase often arrives after you've already made the internal shift. Decisions have been taken seriously, even if no one else noticed. Boundaries were set. Old reactions stopped. You may not feel excited or emotional anymore, and that can be confusing. But that calm isn't emptiness. It's structure. It means what was scattered has been pulled in and is now being held in place. Containment also protects what's forming. When something is fragile, it makes noise because it's exposed. When it becomes solid, it doesn't announce itself. That's why there's no push, no signs, no urgency right now. Nothing needs adjustment. Nothing needs reassurance. The system isn't asking for attention because it's already aligned. If you've been waiting for a signal and instead met silence, that's not rejection, that's confirmation. It means the phase of testing, correcting, and proving has passed. What's next doesn't require effort or chasing. It unfolds on its own, quietly, steadily, without resistance. And that's how you know this part is real. Noise always comes from movement that hasn't settled yet. When something is still shifting, it announces itself through signs, emotions, reactions, and constant mental activity. That's why earlier phases felt loud. There were confirmations everywhere, inattention, urgency to act, and a sense that something still needed to be figured out. Noise exists while alignment is forming. It fades only after alignment holds. Before anything becomes permanent, it has to pass through instability. Think of a coin spinning on a table. While it's wobbling, it makes sound and draws attention. The moment it settles flat, the noise stops, not because the coin disappeared, but because its position is no longer changing. That's exactly how alignment works. Once direction is fixed, there's nothing left to announce. This is why quiet often shows up right before results begin to hold. The system no longer needs feedback loops. There's no more testing, no more adjustment, no more back and forth energy. What once required reminders, signs, or emotional charge no longer does. The outcome is no longer negotiable, so the noise ends naturally. Many people misread this stage because they expect excitement to continue, but excitement belongs to transition, not permanence. Stability is quiet by nature. You don't feel pulled, rushed, or pushed anymore because there's no conflict left between where you are and where you're meant to be. That internal agreement is what creates silence. This is also why forcing action during this phase feels wrong. When alignment locks in, movement becomes automatic. Trying to stir things up only creates unnecessary friction. The quiet isn't asking you to do more. It's telling you that what needed effort has already been done. If you're noticing fewer signs, fewer emotional waves, and less mental noise, that's not a slowdown. It's a seal. It means the phase of becoming is ending and the phase of being is beginning. And being doesn't shout. It simply holds its place and lets life respond on its own terms. There comes a point where nothing outside of you reacts anymore, and that can feel unsettling if you're used to feedback. Messages slow down, signs stop appearing, and people no longer mirror what you're feeling. But this doesn't mean progress has stalled. It means the process has finished its work and no longer needs reinforcement. When something is complete, it doesn't require a response. Earlier stages depend on interaction. You act, something responds, you adjust. That loop continues until alignment is reached. Once it is, the loop closes. There's no need for external confirmation because the direction is no longer in question. What you chose internally has already been accepted. The silence is the system saying, no further input required. This is why you may notice that even situations that once triggered emotion now feel neutral, not because you stopped caring, but because the lesson has been absorbed. When learning ends, repetition stops. Nothing needs to test you again. Nothing needs to challenge your decision. The quiet confirms that the outcome is locked. Think of submitting an important document. While it's under review, there are updates, questions, revisions. Once it's approved, communication stops, not because it failed, but because it passed. The same applies here. What you set in motion no longer needs monitoring. It's already moving forward on its own track. Many people misinterpret this stage and try to recreate noise, thinking silence means nothing is happening. But noise belongs to correction, not completion. Completion is efficient. It doesn't announce itself, it simply proceeds. If nothing is responding the way it used to, take that as a signal of finality, not loss. The absence of reaction means the system recognizes stability. What's next won't need signs or reassurance. It will show up directly, without build-up, because the decision has already been made. The quiet phase for chosen ones is often misunderstood because it doesn't look dramatic. From the outside, it can seem like withdrawal, stagnation, or even giving up. People may assume you've lost momentum or direction, but what they're missing is that this silence isn't a pause caused by confusion, it's a pause caused by resolution. You're no longer processing out loud because there's nothing left to process. Earlier explanations felt necessary. You needed to talk things through, justify choices, or make sense of what was happening. In this phase, that urge disappears, not because you don't have clarity, but because you have enough of it. When understanding becomes internal, you stop needing witnesses. The need to be seen or validated fades naturally. This is also why others may project their own discomfort onto you. They're used to seeing movement, emotion, or struggle as proof that something is real. Quiet confidence can feel unsettling to those who still rely on noise to feel secure. Your stillness highlights their unrest, even if you say nothing at all. Chosen ones often mistake this silence for isolation, but it's actually refinement. Energy is no longer scattered across conversations, reactions, or explanations. It's focused inward, stable, and contained. You're no longer trying to convince anyone, not even yourself. If you're experiencing this, don't rush to explain or re-engage just to feel normal again. This phase isn't meant to be loud or visible. It's meant to solidify who you've already become. And once that settles, what follows doesn't require effort or announcement. It simply arrives. Silence often arrives only after the lesson has fully landed, not when you understand it intellectually, but when it's been absorbed into how you think, respond, and choose. Before this point, life repeats itself. Similar situations show up, the same emotions get triggered, and familiar patterns keep looping. That repetition isn't punishment, it's practice. Once the lesson is integrated, repetition becomes unnecessary and everything goes quiet. You may notice that situations that once demanded a reaction now pass without effort. The urge to explain, defend, or fix things fades. That's because the lesson no longer lives in your mind, it lives in your behavior. You don't need reminders anymore. You've already changed at the core, and the system recognizes that. This is why nothing new seems to be happening right now. Growth isn't always about adding more information. Sometimes it's about allowing what you already learned to settle into place. Think of learning to balance on a bike. At first, there's constant correction and focus. Once balance is mastered, you don't think about it anymore. The movement becomes natural and the noise stops. Many people become uneasy here because they're used to constant challenges as proof of progress. But challenges only appear when something is still unsteady. When integration is complete, life stops testing that area. It doesn't need to. The response is reliable now. If everything feels quiet after a long period of learning, that's not stagnation. It's confirmation. It means you're no longer in training mode. You're operating from what you've already mastered. And from here, results don't need to be chased. They emerge naturally without pressure or effort. One of the clearest signs of this phase is how your emotions suddenly stabilized, not in an excited or dramatic way, but in a steady, grounded way. You're not swinging between highs and lows anymore. The inner turbulence that once pushed you to react or overthink has settled. This isn't numbness, it's regulation. Before this, emotions were intense because things were unresolved. Uncertainty keeps the nervous system alert, constantly scanning for signs and outcomes. Now that the internal decision has been made and accepted, the system relaxes. There's no need to stay on edge. That calm you feel isn't emptiness, it's safety returning. You might even notice moments of emotional flatness and wonder if you've lost passion. But passion doesn't disappear when things stabilize, it just stops burning erratically. It becomes steady instead of consuming. The absence of emotional spikes doesn't mean you care less. It means you're no longer being pulled in different directions. This emotional balance allows you to respond instead of react. Situations that once felt heavy now feel manageable or neutral. That's not avoidance. It's clarity. Your emotions are no longer driving decisions, they're informing them calmly. If you're experiencing this steadiness, don't question it. This is what alignment feels like when it settles. Peace doesn't shout and it doesn't rush. It sits quietly, confident that nothing needs to be forced anymore. The quiet phase often signals that the test period has ended. Earlier, life kept presenting situations that challenged your patience, boundaries, and trust. You were placed in moments where your reactions mattered more than the outcome. Each response showed whether the lesson was still in progress or finally understood. When those tests stop appearing, it's because the evaluation is complete. Tests don't disappear by accident. They repeat until the response changes. Once you stop reacting the old way, the need for testing fades. Life no longer needs to push you, provoke you, or pressure you into growth. The absence of resistance means you passed without needing further proof. You may notice that obstacles no longer feel personal. What once blocked you now simply moves aside or doesn't appear at all. That's not luck, it's clearance. The system no longer needs to slow you down or redirect you because you're already aligned with where you're meant to go. This is also why the quiet feels different from earlier pauses. Before, silence came with anxiety and uncertainty. Now, it comes with calm. That calm is the indicator that the testing environment has been shut down. You're no longer under review. If you're not facing pushback the way you used to, take that as confirmation. You're not being challenged because there's nothing left to prove. What comes next won't feel like a struggle, it will feel like access. At this stage, you may notice a surprising shift. The need to search for answers has faded, not because curiosity is gone, but because the inner questioning has settled. Earlier, you were constantly looking for meaning, signs, reassurance, or confirmation. That searching was necessary when things were unclear. Now, it feels unnecessary because clarity has moved inside you. When alignment becomes internal, answers stop coming from outside sources. You don't feel pulled to check, ask, or compare anymore. The urge to analyze every detail weakens. This isn't indifference, it's knowing. You trust your sense of direction without needing constant evidence. This is often misunderstood as losing interest or motivation, but what's actually happening is that your attention is no longer scattered. When you're unsure, the mind looks everywhere. When you're sure, it stays still. That stillness feels strange at first because it's unfamiliar, but it's also grounding. You may notice that even spiritual or motivational content doesn't hit the same way it used to. That's a sign you're no longer consuming to fill a gap. You're operating from a place of completeness rather than seeking. If you're no longer chasing explanations, don't force yourself back into searching mode. That chapter has done its work. The answers you needed are already integrated. From here, understanding shows up as calm confidence, not constant questioning. Silence often appears when timing becomes fixed. Before this phase, things felt flexible, uncertain, or delayed. Plans shifted, expectations changed, and outcomes seemed to move back and forth. That instability created noise because timing was still being adjusted. Once the right moment is set, that adjustment process ends and everything becomes quiet. When timing is locked in, there's no rush and no anxiety. You're no longer waiting in the same way because you can feel that things are already scheduled, even if you don't know the exact details yet. The absence of urgency is the clue. Nothing needs to be pushed or accelerated anymore. This is why forcing action during this period feels uncomfortable. When timing is still open, effort can change direction. When timing is fixed, effort only creates friction. The system has already chosen the pace, and silence is how it signals that choice. You may also notice that events start lining up naturally without much planning. Conversations happen at the right moment. Opportunities appear without chasing. That flow doesn't come from effort, it comes from alignment holding steady. If everything feels paused yet certain at the same time, that's not contradiction, that's confirmation. Timing is no longer up for negotiation. What's meant to move will move when it's supposed to, without noise, without stress, and without you having to make it happen. When urgency disappears, it often feels unfamiliar. For a long time, pressure may have driven your actions, fear of missing out, fear of delay, fear of getting it wrong. Urgency creates motion, but it also creates tension. When alignment settles, that tension releases and urgency fades with it. Nothing feels urgent now because nothing is at risk. The outcome is no longer dependent on constant effort or perfect timing. You don't feel pushed to act, explain, or decide quickly because the core decision has already been made. What remains is execution, and execution doesn't need anxiety to function. This calm can be confusing, especially if you're used to urgency as a sign of importance. But urgency belongs to instability. When something matters and is secure, it doesn't demand attention every second. Think of a strong foundation. It doesn't need reinforcement every day because it already holds. You may notice that waiting no longer feels heavy. Time passes without stress. You're not counting signs or measuring progress the way you used to. That's because trust has replaced pressure. You know things are moving even if you can't see every step yet. If nothing feels urgent, don't interpret that as loss of motivation. It's a sign of certainty. The system isn't asking you to rush because there's nothing to save or fix. What's coming will arrive in its own time, and you're already in the right position to receive it. This quiet phase also serves as protection for what's already been secured. When something is still forming, it's exposed. Opinions, interference, and outside influence can affect it, but once alignment locks in, the system naturally reduces access. Noise fades so nothing disturbs what's stabilizing beneath the surface. You may notice that fewer people have opinions about your choices now. Situations that once pulled you into debate or explanation no longer arise. Even criticism loses its grip. That's not coincidence, it's insulation. What's settled doesn't need defense, and what's protected doesn't invite interference. This is why you might feel less affected by external reactions. Comments don't hit the same way. Approval doesn't excite you, and disapproval doesn't shake you. Your center has moved inward. The quiet acts like a boundary, keeping your energy focused and undisturbed. Protection doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like nothing happening at all. No drama, no distractions, no tests, just space. That space allows what's locked in to strengthen without pressure. If life feels less reactive around you right now, that's not emptiness, it's safeguarding. The quiet isn't taking anything away. It's preserving what's already yours so it can continue without disruption. During this phase, it's common to feel detached without feeling lost. You're present, aware, and functioning, but no longer emotionally entangled the way you once were. This can be confusing because detachment is often mistaken for disconnection. In reality, disconnection feels empty and anxious. Detachment feels calm and observant. You're no longer pulled into every situation emotionally. You notice things without absorbing them. Conversations happen, events unfold, but they don't stick to you the same way. That's not avoidance. It's perspective. You're seeing clearly instead of being inside the reaction. This shift happens when identity recenters. Earlier, your sense of self may have been tied to outcomes, roles, or external validation. Now, it's anchored internally. You know who you are regardless of what's happening around you. That internal anchor creates distance without isolation. This observer state is a sign of maturity, not withdrawal. It allows you to respond with intention rather than impulse. You're not numb, you're selective. Your energy goes where it's useful, not everywhere it's triggered. If you feel slightly removed but deeply grounded, trust that. You're not drifting, you've stepped back into yourself. And from this place, clarity comes naturally, without effort or emotional noise. Silence often arrives when proof is no longer needed. Earlier, signs, reassurance, and confirmation played a role because uncertainty was still present. You needed reminders that you were on the right path. Now, that need has faded, not because nothing matters, but because you already know where you stand. When knowing replaces believing, external validation loses its purpose. You don't feel the urge to look for signals or interpret every detail anymore. The direction feels settled internally, so nothing outside has to convince you. This is a quiet confidence, not a dramatic one. You may notice that even when something aligns perfectly, you don't feel surprised. There's no rush of excitement, just recognition. That's because your inner state already expected it. The confirmation happened earlier, inside you, before it appeared externally. This stage can feel anticlimactic if you were waiting for a big sign, but true certainty doesn't announce itself. It feels simple and obvious. The mind stops arguing, and the body relaxes because there's no conflict left. If signs have stopped showing up, don't interpret that as abandonment. It's a signal that reassurance is no longer required. You've crossed from hopping into knowing, and once you're there, silence becomes the clearest form of confirmation. As things settle, it's common to notice people quietly drifting out of your life. There's often no argument, no clear reason, no dramatic ending. Conversations slow down, connections fade, and contact becomes less frequent. This isn't loss, it's alignment adjusting itself. When your internal state stabilizes, your energy changes. You're no longer operating from uncertainty, urgency, or emotional pull. That shift naturally alters who can stay connected. Some relationships were built around shared confusion, shared struggle, or constant exchange. When that phase ends, the connection no longer has a role. This separation doesn't require blame. No one did anything wrong. It's simply that alignment narrows as clarity increases. The circle becomes smaller but more accurate. What no longer matches falls away without force. You may feel neutral about these changes, not sad or relieved, just aware. That neutrality is important. It shows you're not clinging or resisting. You're allowing the adjustment to happen naturally. If people are fading from your life right now, don't chase closure or explanations. This phase doesn't create drama, it creates space. And that space makes room for what actually belongs in the next chapter without effort or strain. This quiet phase sits between what changed inside you and what's about to show up outside. That gap can feel strange because you already feel different, yet your external world hasn't fully caught up. This doesn't mean anything is delayed. It means synchronization is happening. Inner shifts always lead outer results, never the other way around. First, your perception changes, then your reactions change, then your choices change. Only after that does the external world reorganize itself to match. The silence marks that in-between space where alignment is adjusting reality, not you. This is why forcing visible results right now feels off. The internal work is complete, but the external environment still needs time to rearrange. Think of setting a new direction on a map before the vehicle turns. The route is already chosen, even if the scenery hasn't changed yet. During this phase, patience feels different. It's not tense waiting, it's quiet allowance. You're not asking, pushing, or doubting. You're simply letting the bridge finish forming between who you've become and what's meant to meet you. If you're in this space, trust it. The silence isn't a pause in progress, it's the final alignment step before movement becomes visible. Once the inner and outer fully match, action resumes naturally without effort or resistance. One of the clearest signs that this phase has settled is how little you react now. Situations that once triggered strong emotions barely register. Comments don't provoke you, delays don't upset you, and unexpected changes don't throw you off balance. This isn't because you've become indifferent, it's because your center is stable. Earlier reactions came from uncertainty. When you didn't know where things were heading, every event felt personal. Now that direction is clear internally, outside events no longer shake you. You're grounded enough to observe before responding or not respond at all. This emotional neutrality is often mistaken for passivity, but it's actually mastery. You're choosing where your energy goes instead of letting circumstances decide for you. That choice creates calm, not detachment from life. You may notice that even when something goes wrong, your first response is clarity instead of panic. You assess, adjust, and move forward without emotional weight. That's regulation at work. If you're reacting less, don't question it. This isn't suppression, it's self-trust. You no longer need to defend, explain, or control every outcome. The quiet confidence you feel is proof that you're operating from alignment, not impulse. This stage also signals that a cycle has fully closed, not gradually, but completely. You're no longer pulled back into old patterns even when familiar situations appear. What once triggered a loop now feels distant, almost irrelevant. That's how you know the door is shut. Cycle closure doesn't come with drama or announcements. There's no final conversation or emotional release. It simply becomes impossible to return to the old way of being. Even if you tried, the response wouldn't be there. The connection, reaction, or attachment no longer exists. This can feel strange because you may remember how intense those cycles once were. They defined your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. Now they feel like memories without charge. That absence of emotional pull is the confirmation that the lesson is complete. Many people wait for closure to feel like relief or joy, but real closure feels neutral. It feels settled. The mind stops revisiting, and the body no longer reacts. The system has moved on. If you sense that you can't go back even if you wanted to, trust that. That's not loss, that's progress. The quiet around you isn't emptiness, it's space cleared after a chapter has ended for good. This phase often feels invisible to others because the most important changes are happening beneath the surface. There's no dramatic shift they can point to, no obvious milestone to celebrate. From the outside, it may look like nothing is happening at all, but internally, everything has already changed. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Early stages are visible because they involve struggle, learning, and adjustment. Later stages are quiet because they involve stability. You're no longer reshaping yourself, you've already done that. Now the environment is catching up. This invisibility can feel uncomfortable if you're used to external recognition as proof of progress, but needing to be seen belongs to earlier phases. In this stage, alignment doesn't require an audience. It operates whether anyone notices or not. You may also notice that explanations fall flat if you try to describe what's happening. That's because this phase isn't conceptual, it's embodied. It's lived, not talked about. If others don't see what's shifting for you, don't try to make it visible. This stage isn't meant for validation. It's meant for quiet expansion, and what grows quietly often lasts the longest. At this point, the stillness itself becomes the confirmation. There are no more signs arriving, no repeating messages, no reminders nudging you forward. That's because nothing is pending anymore. When something is unresolved, it asks for attention. When it's complete, it goes silent. Earlier signals were necessary to guide you through uncertainty. They helped you adjust, reflect, and stay aware. Now, guidance doesn't need to speak because direction is already set. The absence of messages isn't a gap, it's a statement. Everything that needed to be communicated has already been received. This kind of confirmation can feel unfamiliar because it doesn't come with emotion or excitement. It feels plain, almost ordinary, but that's exactly the point. What's real doesn't need drama to prove itself. It holds steady without asking you to believe harder or wait longer. If you've been expecting one final sign and met silence instead, understand what that means. There's nothing left to clarify. No warning, no adjustment, no reversal is coming. The quiet is the confirmation that the process has reached its natural end. When silence replaces signals, trust it. That's not uncertainty, that's certainty settling in. After the quiet, movement returns, but it feels different from before. There's no build-up, no emotional surge, no feeling of chasing. Things simply begin to happen. Conversations open naturally. Opportunities appear without effort. Decisions feel obvious instead of stressful. Action resumes, but it's calm and precise. What moves next doesn't require you to push. It responds to who you've already become. Because alignment is stable, outcomes meet you halfway. You're no longer trying to create change. You're allowing what's already set to unfold. This is why nothing felt urgent during the quiet phase. The system wasn't paused. It was preparing the conditions for smooth movement. Once those conditions are in place, life responds without resistance. You may notice that when things start moving again, they do so quickly but quietly. No struggle, no delays, no second guessing, just steady progress. If you're here now, understand this. The quiet was not the end. It was the transition into effortlessness. What comes next won't need signs or noise to announce itself. You'll recognize it by how naturally it fits into your life, as if it was always meant to arrive this way. If everything around you went quiet, let this be your reassurance, not a question mark. Silence didn't arrive to take something away. It arrived because the work was done, the cycle closed, and alignment settled in. You didn't miss a sign. You didn't fall behind. You reached a point where noise was no longer required. This phase isn't about waiting or wondering. It's about trusting what's already set in motion and allowing life to respond naturally. The calm you feel is your proof. You're no longer chasing direction, you're standing in it. If this message resonated with you, you're not alone. This channel exists for moments exactly like this. If you found clarity here, like this video so more people who need it can find it. Share it with someone who's been confused by the quiet. Subscribe to Chosen Realms for more grounded insights like this. And in the comments, tell me, what changed for you when everything went quiet?